Hello. For several decades, traditional Catholics, especially the more radical ones, have been promoting a false, condemned prophecy that was from the Index of Forbidden Books, placed there in 1923 by Pope Pius XI. Unfortunately, this prophecy masquerades as a secret of La Salette. But it is not the true secret of La Salette. It was written in 1879, several decades after the original visions, and it was condemned multiple times. I'm going to read a little bit of it for you so that you know what it is and you start to understand the problems with it, and also why it's become popular. In the year 1865, there will be a desecration of holy places. In convents, the flower of the church will decompose, and the devil will make himself the king of all hearts. France, Italy, Spain, and England will be at war. Blood will flow in the streets. At the first blow of his thundering sword, the mountains of nature will tremble in terror. The disorders and crimes of men have pierced the vault of the heavens. And then it goes on to say, suddenly the persecutors of the Church of Jesus Christ and all those given over to sin will perish, and the earth will be desert-like. Then peace will be made, and man will be reconciled with God. Jesus Christ will be worshipped. Jesus Christ will be served, worshipped, and glorified. Charity will flourish everywhere. This peace among men will be short-lived. 25 years of plentiful harvests will make them forget that the sins of men are the cause of all troubles on this earth. And it goes on to talk about a forerunner of the Antichrist. The seasons will be altered. The earth will produce nothing but bad fruit. The stars will lose their regular motion. The moon will reflect only a faint reddish glow. Water and fire will give the earth's globe convulsions and terrible earthquakes, which will swallow up mountains, cities, etc. That's interesting. And then it says, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. The demons of the air, together with the Antichrist, will perform great wonders on earth and in the atmosphere, and men will become more and more perverted. God will take care of his faithful servants and men of good will. The church will be in eclipse, the world will be in dismay, but now Enoch and Elijah will come filled with the Spirit of God. Okay. So, it might be obvious there's a few problems with this. The first being that it says in the year 1865, some certain terrible things will happen. And I'm not a huge history buff, but I don't recall a world war happening in 1865. Correct me if I'm wrong. I also don't remember the whole earth turning into a desert around that time, or any time between 1865 and right now. And if it's not already clear, the part of the prophecy that says Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist is not present in any approved version of this prophecy. Again, it was placed on the Index of Forbidden Books. There's a lot of traditional Catholics who say that the original visions of Sister Faustina for the Divine Mercy devotion were placed on the Index of Forbidden Books. And they get to be real sticklers about that, despite later popes determining that the original writings that were looked at by Rome were mistranslations. But I'm afraid these same traditional Catholics will be hesitant to approve of Rome putting their favorite vision on the Index of Forbidden Books. I want to be clear about something. There are a lot of problems in the church today. There have been a lot of problems in the church since the 1950s. I think a turning point was around 1963. That's what I've gathered from listening to exorcists and from theologians who were present at the Second Vatican Council and during the liturgical reforms, and just witnesses of the chaos that happened afterwards. But to say that Rome will lose the faith in an open-ended way when you're talking about the Catholic Church and the Pope is to deny the doctrine of indefectibility of the Church. There are approved Catholic prophecies, such as from Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich and from St. John Bosco, which talk about coming distress in the Church, a war between the Church and Freemasons. They even make it appear that infiltration happens. The Masons go from trying to sink the bark of Peter to engaging in hand-to-hand combat on its decks. But none of these prophecies ever indicate that the Pope himself is going to lose the faith. None of these prophecies indicate that a false church will rise under the true Pope. Jesus himself said that you can't serve two masters, so I really don't understand how a Pope can be expected to serve two different churches. Now, Anne Catherine Emmerich does indicate that there will be two popes and two churches, a false one and a true one. But again, two popes, indicating that, implying that they would live at the same time. You can extrapolate whatever you want, and traditional Catholics very clearly have done that many times over. St. John Bosco's prophecy about the ship in a storm headed by St. Peter indicates that the Pope will be attacked and even killed by the enemies of the Church. But as soon as he's killed, the captains of the other ships, the auxiliary ships, which means the princes of the Church, the bishops, will elect a new Pope. No sooner will the Pope be struck down than a new Pope will be elected. So none of these prophecies indicate se vacante. None of them indicate the theory of the SSPX, which is that the Pope is the head of a false church and a true church. Now, I don't know if that's the official statement of the SSPX, but I don't understand how you can go around making statements like Archbishop Lefebvre did, saying that Rome has lost the faith, that Rome is in a state of heresy, that the Pope appears to be an antichrist, and yet believe that he is the Pope and yet not the head of two churches. Canon Gregory Hess, who is famous for defending the SSPX, specifically made that claim several times. Again, there is no Catholic prophecy that aligns with this. There is no Catholic prophecy that indicates that the Mass, published by the Pope, will be compromised. We have to be careful about these things, and we have to really consider, does our favorite theory, controversial theory about the Church line up with anything that we've been told is going to happen by approved sources? It makes me sad to realize that I was raised on stories, on false prophecies like this. But no one around me had the sense to actually look into it and verify whether these things were real. Critical thinking is a rare skill, but it's extremely important if you're going to do your own research. And what's even more important, which I'm afraid that people lack the capacity for, is to admit when they're wrong. Like, there are many people who are going to see this and maybe hear it from other sources, but they will not want to let go of their favorite prophecy just because it says that Rome will lose the faith. They'll try to equivocate, they'll try to, they'll try to do whatever they can to say that, well, that part of the prophecy wasn't condemned. Okay, that's one part of the prophecy that doesn't occur anywhere else, in any approved prophecy. So you're going to have to really tell me how that's a valid part, and somehow the rest of it isn't. It's so important to be honest with ourselves, and with our families, and to accept hard truths. Jesus told us hard truths. And his disciples said, we have nowhere else to go. That's what we have to say now. We're not going to jump from the frying pan into the fire. It might be a hard truth to accept that the Pope is imperfect, that he might be cowardly, that he might align himself personally with very bad people, even heretical people. But if you're going to say that he's the Pope, then you have no excuse to ignore him. If you've ever read the dogma of papal supremacy, then you know that you have to listen to the judgments of the Pope, and that there is no higher authority on earth. There is no one who can judge the judgments of the Pope. That's not to say that the Pope cannot make mistakes, but it is up to his successor to rectify those mistakes. It's not up to us. It's not up to us to say that Rome has lost the faith, and that we're the only ones who have it. That's a temptation to pride and hubris. That's a very easy temptation. That's all. God bless. Please try to stay level-headed.